by the help of the Lord, finish this chapter tonight. I think I got all this stuff here. Last week, when I had the lesson, the video messed up. They didn't get one strip of what I said. They wanted me to do it over again, but I said I don't think that I want to do the lesson over again tonight. But I'll do it again for them, a special little session. But I appreciate them coming in and videoing this. They live 30 miles away and coming in like that, and I appreciate it so much. Tonight we're going to pick up where we left off last week, Proverbs chapter 26, and now we're at verse 18. And if when I get through this chapter, I hope I get through it tonight. That'll be 27 out of the 31. So we're coming in closer. I hope that in this semester session that we can get it all done and have it in video so that we can do it again the next time without my presence if need be. Let's go to Proverbs 26 and 18. As a madman who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death, so is the man that deceiveth his neighbor, and saith, am not I in sport? I'm just kidding. I just set your house on fire, but I was just doing it for the fun of it. I wasn't doing it to hurt you. He said, it's about as crazy as a man that deceiveth his neighbor and just laughs about it. I didn't really mean to do it. I'm just fooling around. I just want to pull a trick on you by slandering you, seeing what trouble I could cause for you. He says, like an insane person, a mad man, setting your house on fire. You know, being a pastor and being the pastor for 56, 57 years, I've seen some dumb things. I mean, dumb things. People don't hardly think straight. They're like crazy people, like a madman, not realizing what they're doing when they deceive somebody, pull tricks on somebody, slander somebody. Many times a person will never recover from a slander. I don't know if you ever heard the term a wounded spirit. A person can get wounded spiritually and never recover from it. I don't know how many people I've lost over the years that went back into the world because somebody pulled a trick on them. Somebody slandered them, somebody deceived them. Made them believe that they were such a wonderful Christian, and then they did some other dastardly deed. I was just a young fellow when I went away to Bible college. I was just 18. And I went all the way to Texas, Fort Worth, 1,200 miles from my home, my mother and dad. And I didn't have any friends, you know, because I had to make all new friends. And I worked at a grocery store as a checkout counter. And there was a fellow running a cashier right next to me. And he was telling me what a Christian he was. He lived in Dallas, which is 50 miles from Fort Worth. Fort Worth and Dallas kind of all grow together. That's the way it was 50 years ago, and it's worse now. But anyway, he asked me to come over to a New Year's celebration at their church or whatever. Can't remember just all it was now, but the guy got drunk. I never got hurt so bad in my life. I was never been around anybody. We never had any drinking in our house, never. And to be around somebody that was drunk like that on the New Year's Eve was almost crushing, because we had made good friendship. And sometimes it's not something you say, but it's something that you do that deceives people into them thinking that you're something that you're not. A deceiver is like a hypocrite. Somebody recently had said to me that one of our young people in our church wanted them to go to a movie. But it really hurt that young man. We don't go to movies. Our church, we condemn movies, theaters. I don't even have a television or a VCR. We condemn the foolishness. We don't go to theaters. But somebody had got the idea that that would have been a smart thing to go out to the mall and go to the theater. But we don't do that. Boy, it really hurt that one young man. You can't do stuff like that. And especially, we're Christians, and now beyond Christianity, we've tried to make another step into another phase of Christianity, and that is to be in the service of the Lord. You don't ever go to the movies. You don't ever go to them again. You don't even go to the movie house, even if it's Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse. You don't do it. All you'd have to do is come out of a theater, and people see you come out of there that knows you, and you've ruined your testimony just about forever. Forever. They think that's, you say, well, we only went to see Bugs Bunny. But on the other hand, we would never know but what you attended regularly. And I'm not saying there might even be something wrong with Bugs Bunny. I don't know. I'm not criticizing poor Bugsy tonight. But I just say that. But we just don't go. We just don't go. I noticed in the paper this week that they're promoting a film called The End of the Spear. And it's a Christian movie. It's being shown in the theaters. I don't know how many, $50–60 million production of those 5 missionaries that were martyred down by the Auca Indians in Colombia, I believe, South America, back in '57, I believe, something like that. Boy, I'd like to see it. I really would like to see it. But I'm not going to go to the theater to see it. I'll tell you, maybe someday somebody have a video of it and I can see it, but I'm not going to go to the theater. I don't care if it was Phil Kidd. If he was in the movies, and I wouldn't go to see Phil Kidd if he's at the theater. So that's pretty honest. Shut your mouth. You don't know. I'm not going to wreck my testimony at the theater. I'm not going to go get drunk. I'm not going to take anything. I'm not going to do anything. Christian workers, that's who you are, I trust. When you get into this ministry, you'll walk the line. You'll live in a goldfish bowl. Everybody's gonna see everything you do. So you just don't live cockeyed, you live straight. You may say, well, I can do what I wanna do. Yeah, you can. But you're not gonna do it and have God's blessings, God's power and anointing on your life. You make up your mind, when you get into the Lord's work, you're not gonna deceive people about your Christianity. You're gonna be everything that you claim to be, and right up front in everything you do. You're talking 2 or 3 things here. You're talking about deceiving people by your actions and your words and your deeds. And I've just said that some people never recover from that. I had a fellow come to church, oh, it's been probably 20 years ago. And somehow or other I said something when I was preaching. I said something that was degrading myself, not anybody else. I just said, I don't know what I said now. I've said it a lot of times, and I'm not all that I'm cracked up to be or want to be. I'm just a human being, and I don't like myself, and I don't want to be like I am. I want to be godly and pure and holy. Something like that. He said after church that I've never heard a preacher put himself down like that. And he never came back to church. Well, I tried to get him back, but I never got him back. Preached his funeral. I did that. Had a lot of things over the years. Some things that were my fault and some things other people's fault. But I want to say to you young people and hopefully spiritual leaders, don't get in this business of slandering and deceiving. When you slander somebody, it's like backbiting. That when you backbite, you have to get pretty close to somebody to bite their back. You have to be pretty vicious to sneak up behind somebody and bite their back. But when you criticize somebody behind their back, that is backbiting. That's a terrible, terrible thing. If you have something that really is bothering you about an individual, why don't you look him right in his eyes and right in his face and say, now this is not just the way I like to see this. I'm sorry about it, but there's a misunderstanding. That's what men do. Cowards, crooks, beatniks, screwballs, they bite you behind the back. But people that have character, who have some structure and got good sense, there'll be a man or a lady about it and approach you about it and take care of it. A lot of things you just need to forget about and take it on the chin, just go on and forget about it. But if it's something that's eating your whole, your heart, don't go backbiting. It's a wicked thing to backbite. It's a wicked thing to, actually what it does, it belittles you. It brings you down. People don't respect people that talk about people. If you talked about somebody else in my presence, it may be such that you'd talk about me in somebody else's presence. You're that kind of a person that doesn't have control of themselves. And when you criticize somebody, it's like a character assassination. You're assassinating that person's character. You're like shooting a flaming arrow, as our text says, into the heart or into the home or into the life of an individual. It maligns them, it blackens them, it slams and slurs, perhaps smear their name, tears down, and vilifies. I don't know what to do about it. I have people that really dislike me, and I try not to dislike them, but they do dislike me. And not so much as something I've done against them, but because I don't do something that they want me to do. And I won't do it. I just won't do it because it's not right. And then they'll hold that against me and then slander me because I won't do what they want me to do. But I'm not going to do what they want me to do just because they want it, and I want to do what's right. Yeah. And you have a problem of with people that your character is going to rise, your testimony is going to rise higher and higher and higher with the less that you do to get back at people. If it's known that you just want to get back at people, can't get along with people, it'll hurt you. In the overall picture, it'll hurt you. You don't even, I don't know if you could understand it if I told you. But being in the Lord's work, it's a whole different ball game. You get shot out of the saddle maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe 10 times a month. You get shot out of the saddle. Somebody sharpshooting at you. You say, well, that isn't right. I know it's not right, but what do? Nothing! Nothing! It's like my dad told me when I got in the ministry. He said, Don, people are going to spit in your face. But what you do about it, you wipe it off. And you smile. And you go right on serving God. That's what you do. If you got grit in your craw and sand in your pants and Christianity in your heart, that's what Jesus said. I told you last week. He slapped you on this cheek. Turn that one. He didn't say what to do after that, but at least that's as far as you can go with it. But I say be kind. That spirit and law of kindness is always proper for Christians, even under the worst sort of situations. But this fellow's a screwball. He does all this stuff, and as a man would cast firebrands and arrows of death. And so is this man that deceiveth his neighbor and said, I'm just having fun. I'm having fun tearing you down and criticizing you and seeing how far I can go with it. That's idiotic. But that's what some people, it's sort of like a sport to some people. See what they can do to hurt somebody else. But you'll never do it. You'll never do it as a Christian leader and stay in leadership. You'll go right to the bottom. You've got to keep going up and moving up in the plateau of not returning evil for evil, but kindness for evil. Love your enemies. Do good to them that despitefully use you. That's what you do. And you say, well, Brother Green, that's flowery words. You know, I didn't say that. My Lord Jesus Christ said that. If you'd like to be Christ-like, then head in that direction. You want to be a fighter and quarreler and bicker and yeller and screamer and criticizer and fault finder. You kids that are in school, if you could just stay out of that critical spirit, stay out of it the rest of your life, you'll have a wonderful life. Sometimes it's hard to bite the bullet, really, because it's, you don't want to. You want to get back at people, but don't do it. How about a hurry? Proverbs 22, 26, 21, 20 and 21. Where no wood is, the fire goes out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceases. As coals are to burning, coals are to burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle fire. It's impossible to have any strife or difficulty if there's no fuel fed to the fire. But if you keep feeding fuel to that fire, it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm kind of the opinion, not only the tale bearer, but the tale hearer, if you listen to some of this business, you will be just as guilty as the fellow that told it to you. Now, you say, how can I get away from it? The guy's telling me. If you don't mind, I'd rather not hear it. I just rather not. I love you, but I love this guy you're talking about too. And I pray for you, and I pray for him, and I just rather you wouldn't tell me about it. Well, Pastor, you're my pastor. I know I'm your pastor, but let's don't run this guy down. Let's don't do that. That's a part of being a leader. If you're going to be a sob sister and a crybaby and a wimp, then you keep on just like you are, and just fit right in with all the gossip and all the confusion and all the fires of flames of trouble and difficulty, and you just add your little bit of wood and your little bit of whatever to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I like to think about coals of fire. I like to think about wood on that fire. I like to think about how that somebody started that fire. It was just gossip. It wasn't based even on truth. I've said this probably, I guess, 100 times in our class on character building. You don't always have to tell the truth. Forget about it. It might hurt somebody. What do you mean, Brother Green? Well, I heard that so-and-so is pregnant and she's not married and blah, 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 blah. And it may be true, but shut up! It's not going to help anything. It's going to hurt somebody. I heard that George got drunk last night. It may have been a truth. Shut up! Love covereth sins. How would you like the Lord to drag out all yours? You wouldn't like it, would you? I never will forget. I was in Bible college and under the great J. Frank Norris. He was the greatest preacher probably ever was in America. He had a guy that run a parking lot downtown Fort Worth. And he came to church and got saved, baptized, and came faithfully for 6-8 months. And he slipped and got drunk. Somebody came to J. Frank and said, you know that so-and-so got drunk? He said, thank God for the 8th month he was sober. Can you understand that kind of stuff? I'm sorry he got drunk, but let's don't run the guy down to the ground. Let's pray for him, see if we can't help our brother that stumbled and fell. I might build some character in some of you. All of you, I won't do it because your mind is too concrete. It's already set. You already like the juice, the gossip, the slander, the criticism, the fault finding. You like it. It's already embedded in your young hearts. You can't catch on to what Brother Green's saying because you don't have to pastor the people after you tear up the church. You don't have to pastor it. I do. You say what you want to say, do what you want to do, but I'm the guy that has to clean up the mess after you made the mess. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Amen.
When you're in leadership, you're in a different, this class is not a Sunday school class. It's not a preaching service. It's for Christian leaders. You don't go around stirring up and making messes, adding more fuel to the fire. You shut it down. There have been incidents, wicked, ungodly incidences that have happened in this church in the last 2 years that you don't even know that ever happened, and I would never tell anybody that they happened. You put the shh. So That isn't right, brother. You're a big shot Joe in New York City, and you know all about it, don't you? That is the way you do it. You don't pastor churches. You don't run leadership on criticizing, fault finding. You help the people that fell into sin. And those people that I'm just talking in my mind, I was just telling you, they're still in church and still serving God. Because I didn't drag it before the whole church and make a big deal out of the whole thing. If it was a federal case, then we would have taken it to the federal courts. But it was something that could be settled out of court and just taken care of and go right on serving God. You understand what I'm talking? Amen. That's where you pastor, that's where you lead. You're not a criticizers or fault finders. I don't know how many feel like they're close to me or hang around me much or in my presence much. But you'll know after a while if you hung around me, that's not my way of running business, is knocking people down and pushing them over. I don't do that. When I stand in the pulpit, I can preach my heart out. I can preach against every sin there is in the book. My hands are not tied by anybody in the church. But when I'm out of the pulpit, I just try to be a nice guy. I don't preach to you. You didn't show up to church last Sunday because you were drunk. I'm not going to go and jump on you like a duck on a June bug. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to pray for you. I mean, you didn't come to church last Sunday. You went off to Cedar Point and fooled around down there on all those rides and fooled around. That'd be enough to make any preacher mad. Like what he do is, I wouldn't live like that, Brother Green. I'd straighten the whole thing out. You would for a while. But you'd have one mess right after another mess. You understand what I'm saying? You're looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do know what I'm talking about. There are things that just, that's the way it is. James chapter 3 and verse 6, the tongue is a fire, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. The tongue can no man tame. It is unruly evil, full of deadly poison. You know that's true. In your own life, you can hardly control that tongue of yours. It's just full of it. You don't like somebody or something, you voice your opinion strong against it. Well, that's because that's a part of it. That's a part of it, but someplace, somewhere, you got to get a hold of yourself and control that tongue. Do you have any arguments and quarrels and fights with your brothers and sisters, with your husband, wife, your children, your people at work? Do you have problems? Is it because you brush your teeth with gunpowder and shoot your mouth off all day long? If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. That's your life. It's your life. But you'll have nothing but heartaches all of your life. You can have a pretty decent life if you can shut your mouth. I mean, I'm going to say something kind right now. This fellow sitting at this table, he's sitting there all by himself. I won't tell you who it is, but he's sitting right there all by himself. He doesn't talk much. He's not a blabbermouth. He doesn't talk much. He just doesn't do it. And he loves God. And he loves to serve the Lord. But you won't find him murmuring and complaining much. It's not his character to do that. I don't know whether his mother or whoever set up his head and heart and soul, but he's a quiet fella. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I didn't put a halo on your head, did I? No. But you understand what I'm saying. You try not to keep your mouth shut.
Try to.
You try to do a better job than 90% of the people I know. Let's go to Proverbs 26 and 20. Where no wood is. I just did that. What I've got, though, I won't do it again, but I've got more. I've got a double letter on that. I won't go to that. I'll just go on. Let me go to verse 22. The words of a talebearer are as wounds. They go down into the uttermost parts of the belly. You know, we're talking again. It seemed like Solomon is on a little bit of a binge here to help people to get over this slanderous, critical wound making. He's talking about critical words, slanderous words, harsh words. He said they go down into the belly. It's like poison. You set out decon in the house for the mice to eat. Very deceitful. They smell it, it smells good to eat. They swallow it, and it goes right down to their belly. And they'll crawl up over in a corner and die. But he's telling them that's what bad words do. Poisons just way down deep, like rat poison, kill, and it hurts. Verse, would you be surprised if I said what I'm going to say? Proverbs 26:22 is the same verse in Proverbs 18 and 8. He said the very same words twice in the Proverbs. He said the same thing. And usually when God says something twice, it makes it doubly important. Be careful about hurting people. It's like deadly poison. You know, the Bible said life and death is in the power of the tongue. Words can kill, but words can also destroy a whole life of good. Now, I'm not putting the halo on my head, but I've tried to do right. And I've tried. Now, I'm not into sainthood yet, by no means. But somebody could mess my life up real bad and hurt me and put me right out of the ministry if they really went at it hammer and tong and found something that wasn't just exactly right. And even if it was right, they said it was wrong, and slander. Slander can hurt just as much as if it were the truth. That's what these politicians do. They don't like Mr. Bush, so they try to dig up every bit of slander and slurs that they can possibly come up with to try to make him look bad because they want to get back into office. Now that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. But we're Christian people. We're not politicians. I told you about that truckload of politicians. Well, a whole busload of politicians. They were out in the country road, hit a tree, and it splattered them all over the ground, all over. And the neighbor, the farmer, heard this crash and came down there, and he had a tractor, and he had a front loader on the front of his tractor. Came down there and saw them as, and they buried them all, buried every one of them. And the sheriff came by a little later and said, where are all the victims of this crash? Oh, he said, I buried them all. He said, were they all dead? Well, he said, some of them said they wasn't, but you know those politicians lie. So, that's about the way. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to tell you that you can destroy people's lives without hardly trying, really. And you can change people's minds. You don't like this, so you talk to people and criticize being done because you don't like it. You can change this guy's mind, agree with you. You have two people agreeing on the thing that's wrong, and it just accumulates, and misery likes company, and so everybody tries to get everybody over on their side. That's wicked. That is wicked. But it's a process that ruins churches and absolutely destroys a lot of good men. I know what I'm talking about. Words are so important. Write this down in your little book, and it will help you maybe 20 years from now. Words can bring joy. If I was to say to one of these girls sitting over at this table, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. Now, she may think I'm lying, but she'd like to hear that. And so, boy, I feel a little joy down in my heart. It does, that's what it does. Joy comes from kind words. It can bring a lot of joy. And can bring a lot of sadness. Joy and sadness, peace and hate, and sorrow, misunderstanding. Words can bring a lot of understanding and help people. Bring a lot of peace to their hearts, or it can bring war. And it can bring happiness. It can bring despair. Your words can establish truth, or it can destroy the truth. Be careful what you say. We used to sing a little song in Sunday school. Be careful, little mouth, what you say, and be careful, little hands, what you do, and little feet, where you go, and for the Father up above, and watching o'er in love, so be careful, little hands, little feet, little eyes, little whatever. It's a part of our Christian training. It's to be careful what we say. I don't think I'm doing a bit of good. Now, I mean that sincerely, because you're pretty well set in your pattern. Most people don't change much. You're just about like you are. You'll be that way 40 years from now, unless something dramatically happens in your life. I know what I'm saying. I had a little boy in my office last week, done some mischievous thing, and I caught him in there, and I said, "Do you know why you did that? Because you wanted to do that. You know why you say what you say? Because you want to say that." And down the line. You do just about what you want to do, because that's what you want to do. I've said it a lot, but I'm going to say it again. If you're a brat, you'll probably be a brat all your life. You probably will. You're not going to change much unless something drastically changes. I met God in the living room of my home 50 years ago, down at the couch. My life has been transformed from that day. I got saved long before that, 17 years before that. But I surrendered lock, stock, barrel, teetotally, unconditionally, ripped it all out by the roots that was wrong and wicked, confessed it, and forsook it. You can do that if you want to, or you can just stream along just like you are now the rest of your life. You'll be just about as far along in your Christianity as you are right tonight, unless you get down to business and say, "I'm all done with that junk. It's out of my life." You young men with all that filth and foolishness, ungodly, vulgar, pornography, screwball thoughts and all that junk, unless you get that out, you're never going to go anywhere with God. I'll tell you, you're not. Filth and faith does not live in the same house. You'll never know what it is. It's a battle. It's a battle, boy. I know what a battle is. It's a battle. I don't know what girls think. They're sugar and spice and everything nice. But I just know they have a problem, too. Gotta have some, you do have some kind of problem, don't you? But anyway, I'm saying, it's a battle. Let me go to, I'm gonna have to hurry, I don't like to hurry, but I'm gonna, verse 23, burning lips and a wicked heart are like a potsherd, a pottery, covered with silver dross. You have a great profession of being a friend. And you have these burning kisses, this warm kisses. I love you, I love you, I love you. But down inside your heart, you're deceitful. You don't love that person. And it's like he said, now, a potsherd is a broken piece of pottery, like a pot, clay pot, broken. And here is a sliver of that pot. That's called a potsherd. And then he said it's covered with silver dross. Dross is the scum of the silver. It's what rises to the top when the heat is applied to bring the purity of it, to bring the dross. The dross will float to the top as the heat is applied to the silver. It's what's called refining silver. But the dross is come off and thrown away. And you could take this potsherd, which is worthless, and this scum that's worthless. He's saying, burning lips with a wicked heart are like potsherd covered with silver dross. You haven't got anything but a lot of scum and a lot of nothing. Phony baloney. Some slick talker, some hypocrite that can kiss you with burning lips, but inside is rotten and wicked and worthless as a piece of broken pottery and scum of the earth. Mushy, gushy, flim-flam, wind-jam. Have you ever been around those people? Are you listening to me, class?
Yes.
You've been around these flim-flam, wind-jam people, just blah, 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 blah. That's all it is hot air. Burning lips, kissy, kissy. Judas Iscariot came up and kissed Jesus Christ with burning lips, deceitfully betrayed him right there on the spot. Somebody's rightfully said Jesus was the door to heaven, and Judas kissed the door to heaven and went to hell. Can you imagine such a thing? So deceitful. Everything isn't just like it appears to be. If you can put that into your heart, like to put that in your pipe and smoke it. And everything isn't like it appears to be. People are not always sincere. In our verse 23 it says they're wicked hearts trying to deceive you and put silver that's scum silver on a piece of potsherd, which is worthless. It may be buddy, 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 buddy. Oh, I'm your buddy, buddy. I'm your friend, friend. But he's leading up to taking something from you. And what you get for return is worthless as potsherd and scum off the silver. I guess our character building lesson for that verse is don't be taken in with wind jam and flim flam. I remember that was in my first church I pastored up in West Branch. years ago, there was a girl in that church. She was a graduate of Moody Bible Institute, which at that time was a good place to go to school. It's quite fundamental. It's not now, but it was then. And she was so nice. She was so nice that she scared me. And she was so nice to me. She was sticking a knife in my back. Brother Green, I love you. Now, she wasn't lovey-dovey in the wrong kind of way, but I'm just saying, it was all nice. But she led up a crew of people that split the church. That's what happens. You just can't trust everything and everybody. I was a young punk kid, maybe 22, 3 years old, pastoring a church. I wasn't ready for a church split, but I got it whether I wanted it or not. They wouldn't probably have pulled that stuff on me today, but I'm an old man now, but I was taken in. I'm telling you, I was taken in. He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Who hateth is covered by deceit. Listen. Whoso hateth is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. What he's trying to say is that sooner or later it will come to the top. This deceitfulness, he that hateth dissembleth. When something is dissembled, it's taken apart. And there are people who will, in your organization, that someday you are a leader in, there will be people who are set at taking it apart. They want to pull it apart. But it's done through deceit. And this person that does all of this deviltry has 7 abominable things. I wrote down, this is not written down what these abominable things are, but I wrote down 7 abominable things about hatred. First of all, it's bitter. It sours up your soul, your attitude, your activities, your actions, and sooner or later will destroy you. It's bitter, it's belittling, it makes you small, it blights your life, it befuddles the mind till you can't think straight, and it blocks the whole barricades the Holy Spirit from working in your life. And it barricades and blocks your prayers from being heard if you hold iniquity in your heart. The Lord will not hear you when you pray. And it baffles those other people, unsaved people, your family members who are not saved, and friends and other people. They can't understand how you could be so wicked and so mean to do what you do. It's like a hypocrite. It's what it is. It's an awful thing to be a hypocrite. It's an awful thing to profess one thing and be something else. But we're Christians. And I want to help you if I could. Be honest. It's a lot more easier to be honest than it is to be crooked. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Abraham Lincoln said, he said, always tell the truth. And he said, you won't ever have to remember what you said. You're going to just go right on shooting straight. let me go on to verse 27. Whoso diggeth a pit. I'm having trouble with my mouth. It's about as dry as a chip tonight. Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein. And he that rolleth the stone, it will return unto him. Now there's no distilled water over there, so I wouldn't drink. I haven't drank anything. I've never drank water out of a tap in 30 years. That's something. I still do it. I won't get into that, but I want to get to this business here about this. He that rolleth the stone shall, it'll return upon him. Jacob, a little unique little thing happened. Jacob, could you tell me how he, Brother Havlin, how he deceived his father that he was Esau when he was really Jacob and stole the blessing? What did he do to deceive his father?
He put on Esau's clothes and he made himself hairy.
Now, you wouldn't have to do that, would you?
Already.
They're all over you. But I just say, he killed a goat, didn't he? And she made stew out of that. She made like it was venison, but it wasn't venison, it was goat. And then took that skin and put it on him so he had hairy arms and hairy neck and hair, like it was Esau. And he deceived his father. You know what his brothers did? His brothers finally took that coat of many colors, and what did they dip it in, Brother Gunning?
Lamb's blood.
A goat's blood. And his father was deceived. His father was deceived. He deceived his father, and his son deceived him. He didn't. His sons deceived him. What are you talking about, brother? I'm telling you, roll a stone, it's going to come back on you. Here's Saul. He threw a javelin, a spear at David trying to kill him. And read on in your Bible, and you'll find that there was a javelin or a spear alongside of him, and David could have killed him with a spear, and he didn't do it. But finally, you know what he did? Saul finally committed suicide by putting a sword in the ground and falling on the sword. You see, you roll a stone, and it'll roll right back on you again. You do some dirty, dastardly, wicked, ungodly thing that ought not to be done, you can count on it. The all-seeing eye of God will not miss one thing, and what you sow will absolutely come back upon you. There was a guy in the Bible named Adonibezek. That's a kind of a strange name. He was a king, but he had an idea that when he'd capture his enemies, the king at least, he would cut off his thumbs and he'd cut off his toes. I guess the reason they did that, one thing is, it'd be pretty hard to shoot a bow if you didn't have a thumb. So that, and the bow was just like shooting a gun in this day. It'd be like cutting off your fingers. You couldn't shoot a gun. But when he was captured, finally by Israel, you know what they did to him? He cut them all off. And he said, I have it coming. He said, I think he said he had 70 kings that he had cut the thumbs off. Maybe just the thumb of the right hand, but I don't know. But anyway, you roll that stone, sooner or later, it'll all come back to you. Pull a shenanigan, you're married, you have a husband, you have a wife, you step out on them. The all-seeing eye God sees this. He'll step out on you. You don't pull anything. You honor your mother and your father, God will bless you. You curse your mother and God will kill you. And you'll die at early age. You will. You roll the stone, it'll fall back. Here's David had Joab to cause Uriah to be killed by a sword. And you know what God said? The sword will never depart out of your house. And you're not going to be able to build the temple because of this sword, 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 sword. He had a man killed with a sword by his decree to have Joab put this man up to the battle and back up and let him be killed. Because David was messing around with his wife Bathsheba. Pulled a perfect crime. But God saw it. I'm telling you, kids, I'm telling you now, you just take this old man's Bible at its base. You're not going to get away with one thing now. Be sure your sin will find you out, and whatever you do that's cockeyed and wicked and wrong, it'll come back to you. You shyster somebody out of some money, somebody will shyster you out of money. You believe that, don't you? It's a part of Christianity. It's a part of being a Christian. These fellas in Daniel's day that concocted a bunch of foolishness to have Daniel put in the den of lions. Do you know what happened to those boys, those people that had him thrown in the den of lions? Dale, what happened to them?
They got thrown in there.
They got thrown in the den of lions. And before they got hit the bottom, those lions had them broke every bone in their body. You say, well, I can get by. You listen, a lot of people smarter than you have tried to get by. He that diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it shall return upon him. It's called retribution. I wish I could preach. I could preach now. I got a good outline here. I could really give an invitation, take up an offering here tonight. This is my last verse, verse 28. A lying tongue hateth those that are affected by it, and a flattering mouth worketh ruin. We've talked a lot about tongue tonight, about slandering, about hatred, and according to this, a lying tongue hateth. When you're lying about something or somebody, it's something or someone you hate. You don't lie about your mother, your dad, those you love. You don't lie about them. You lie about somebody that you hate. Those that are afflicted by it. Have you ever noticed how that if you owe some money to somebody that you don't want to face them, you just soon not see them again in your life. If you rob somebody, you don't want to see the people you robbed. And only when you become a Christian will your life really change. You will not hate. You'll not hate. It's so ugly. It's so ugly to hate. I grant you that all of us have some people that we like better than other people. But be careful now. He talks about hatred, but he talks about flattery. There's that word, and a flattering mouth worketh ruin. I want to tell you something about flattery. Write it down for your notebook, okay? And I'll give you this and I'll be done. Flattery is deceitful. Flattery is deceitful. Second, it is false. It is cheap. It's covetous. It's seeking something from that person. You're flattering them and flim-flamming them to get something out of them. It's covetousness. It's wicked. It's laying a trap. Flattery is a mark of fools. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Could I show you something? A lot I say in this class, I say it over and over again. I didn't that I haven't run out of soap or something like that. It's just like training kindergartners in school. You have to go over it and 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 over it to get it down in your head. You don't have to use flattery. You can use honest appreciation. Now I said something tonight about Greg. It didn't hurt his feelings a bit, did it?
No.
It was honest appreciation. Honest. And you can say to your wife, "Boy, you are a nice girl. I love you, and I'm so glad I married you. Of all the girls in the world, you're the most wonderful girl in all the world." You say, "Well, that's flattery." Well, no. You sincerely, that's honest appreciation. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless you're crooked, slicking, trying to get something you shouldn't be getting. I don't know. You know, that was the nicest thing I ever heard said to me, was what you said to me, and I appreciate that. That's not flattery. That's honest appreciation. Now, you gave me $10, and I really needed the $10, and I want you to know I appreciate it. Now, it's not flattery. It's honest appreciation. And it's wholesome. Honest appreciation is wholesome. Mr. and Mrs. Helmick served 28 years in the junior department. We gave them a plaque and said, "We're appreciative." That's not flattering them. It was honest appreciation. That's perfectly well in Christianity. It's wholesome, it's good, it is welcome, it is wholesome, it is honorable, it's needed, it's encouraging, and it's a blessing. Lying, flattery is lying, honest appreciation is good. You can be a wonderful Christian if you listen to what Brother Green said tonight and put it into your life. And that's the end of my lesson for tonight. And we finished a chapter, Brother and Sister Dunn. A new chapter tonight, the 27th chapter of Proverbs. And if everything is equal, we've got only 4 more chapters to go in this series. I don't know whether we can make it in this semester, but I'm going to try to do as many as I can tonight. The first verse says, "Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day shall bring forth." And of course, this is 3,500 years, I suppose, since it was written, but it's just as true as it was then, that none of us can really make plans too far in advance in our lives. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we really don't even know what's going to happen in the next moment. I was in my studies today, I reread Luke chapter 12, verse 16 through 21. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater. And there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall these things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasures for himself and is not rich towards God. There's no telling what the future holds. I wouldn't think it a sin to prepare for the future here on earth. I don't think there'd be anything wrong with having money in the bank and maybe having some other realities that would help to sustain you when you didn't have a job and when you're too old to work or there was an accident or maybe your health failed or maybe some fire destroyed your home. I can understand that. And I have no animosity towards anybody that would lay up some things for their life and for their children, for their wife, for their responsibilities. I sort of have a philosophy of life, and it's built around the Bible, and I feel like there's nothing that could ever happen to me in my life but what it would be good for me that it happened. For he said all things work together for good to them that love God. I would think also that based on the scripture that God has promised never to leave me, never to forsake me. So I have that sort of assurance more than the insurance. I also kind of believe in my philosophy that God will never put any more on us than we're able to bear, but will, with whatever the difficulty, the temptation, the trial, the tribulation, that he will help us and give us opportunity to find some relief, that he'll never put on us to the place where we'd have a nervous breakdown because he put too much on us. I would think too that God never has made one mistake. And I would think also that I have a channel of prayer that I can always pray to him and help. He'll come to my aid and help me through the difficult times of my life. And I can see where anybody that's got good sense could prepare for the future. But in all your preparing, Amos said, prepare to meet thy God. And a lot of folks don't have that even in their mind. But I guess that's more in my mind than preparing for financial and other securities. The most wonderful thing is to be saved and ready. I saw my pastor's wife this week. She's 94. And she said, I'm ready. Anytime the Lord wants me, I'm ready. I'm ready to stay, I'm ready to leave. That's the best assurance and insurance that anybody could possibly have. Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. I would think in connection with this verse is the next verse where it says about we're not to be boastful people. Be prepared, I'm sure, and allow God to work in our lives. But he said, let another praise thee, and not thine own mouth. A stranger, and not thine own lips. Boast not thyself. I'm talking to my class tonight. I'm talking to perhaps Christian leaders. Boasting is obnoxious. I'm going to say it again. Boasting is obnoxious. It has no place in our Christian life, and especially in leadership, to boast of what you have done. Now, if someone else might say some nice thing about you, that's fine. But don't brag on yourself to tell us how great you are and how much ability you have, more than somebody else, or how many more brains and intelligence you have, or how much better looking you are than the other person, or how much stronger that you are. I want to say it like I've said it so many times. Nobody wants to hear it. And especially from somebody that is in leadership. I, and me, and I can do this, and I'm better, bigger, stronger, more smarter than you are. You're going to do nothing as far as impressing anybody. We're Christian people. And who do you suppose that we ought to give glory to? To God, not to yourself. We praise the Lord. We don't brag. It shows pride when you brag. Some of you are playing basketball. Well, I made 40 points this week. Shut your mouth. You're trying to make an impression on somebody. Don't do that. Everybody else will tell you how many points you made. They know. You don't have to brag on that. That isn't the right thing. It shows that you're self-centered. And I said before, Abelusting. That's German for self-praise smells. It stinks. And it stinks. You want the glory? You want the praise? When God wants the praise and the glory out of our lives, tell you what it does, people. It makes you small. It doesn't make you big, it makes you small. It makes you egotistic. and self-glorifying. It really is conceit, proud. I don't want you. I want you people to develop your lives. I don't know if you can change. I've said it so many times it almost sounds redundant. But I doubt very much you're going to change unless you really want to. If you could stop that bragging, if you could just turn around in your life, it would be a great favor to you. It's so wrong to brag on yourselves. It displeases God and everybody else around about you. It displeases them. We are to prefer others above ourselves. You're better than I am. You're really good at this. I'm not as, I can't get up with you. You're better looking than I am. People really love people who are humble people. And you want to be a go-ahead in your Christian life and in your ministry, whatever it is. Be sure that you give God the glory. I know there's a little bit of super spirituality about some of this. Oh, don't give me the glory, give God all the glory, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to say that. You're going to give God the glory. But be careful that you don't get so goody-goody and that you're not worth anything at all to anybody or anybody else. There's a balance in our life, and God would have us to have that. Last week's lesson was the legs of a lame man are not equal. He's lopsided. But don't let it be said about you that you're cocky and smart-aleck and braggadocious and conceited. It'll ruin your life more than anything I know. Verse 3, a stone is heavy, and sand weightier, very weighty. But a fool's wrath is heavier than both. A fool's wrath is heavy. More than sand or more than a stone. I don't know if you've ever been around an ill-tempered person. They're so injurious. They're so hurtful. No telling what they would do. They hurt you physically. But everybody around about that person that is unruly and wrathful. You hardly want to be around them. I don't know if there's anybody here that's ill-tempered, that you get mad real quick, have a short fuse, and everybody around you better watch out because you start throwing things and saying things and doing things. I have a lady that I pray for every day. She's a missionary's wife. She told me, she said, Brother Green, pray for me. I have a bad temper. I do pray for that lady every day. I haven't seen her since she asked me to do that. It was a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I pray for them on the mission field because that poor soul, there's plenty to make you upset. Just living a normal life, but living on a mission field, it would be even more so. And
And a fool's wrath is really unreasonable. Um, I feel sorry for you. I have within myself qualities, or the unqualities, or whatever, of being, I could get mad, I could. I mean, I could. I've never really flown into a bad temper since I've yielded my life to Christ. But I can remember as a little boy, when I was just 4 or 5 years old, I'd get into a temper tantrum. When my father, my mother would whip me, and I'd just lay on the floor in my back and just kick my feet. My dad would whip the tar out of me, though. He knew that I had that inside of me, that temper. And he whipped it. And, you know, a good whipping would drive a lot of that from you. I wish you'd have whipped me more. I probably wouldn't have had any left. But did you ever see somebody that went crazy, get mad? Have you ever seen anybody like that? They just go so mad that they just throw things and kick holes in the wall. We had a boy in our school here a few years ago. Down in that hall that goes down towards the office, there's a hole in the side of there where he hit it with his fist. It didn't go all the way through, but you could see his knuckle. They're still on the wall down there. I hung a picture over top that kind of covered it up. But the kid had a bad temper. He could just like that. Like I say now, if you do as you please to do, you can ask God to help you with that. You're in the Lord's work. You're studying for the ministry or leadership. You better get on top of that, baby, or else you will have a hard time. People will not trust you. If you're a hothead, and if you got something, you lose your mind and you say, oh, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. You haven't got that many pieces to give away. Some people become very violent, slam doors, break windows, cuss and swear. They get so mad, they say, I believe I'll go get a gun and kill you. They do that. They can hurt somebody real bad. But they hurt themselves, too. A lot of folks want to get revenge when people do bad things to them. God said, vengeance is mine. I will repay. Now, I want to tell you something. I hope you'll not misunderstand me. There's nothing really wrong with getting angry. It all depends on what you're getting angry about. If you're getting angry about something that's ungodly, you know, Jesus was in the temple and he got angry with those money changers that were in the temple and made his house a den of thieves. And he took a rope, made it into a whip, and whipped those people, tipped over the money changers. Looked like he got pretty upset about it. Paul talks about this. He said, be ye angry and sin not. Can you understand there's a balance there? It all depends on what makes you mad. If it's little personal petty things, that's something else. Now, if you want to tip me over real good, you mess around with this church. You start criticizing this church, and you'll have a big fat preacher right in your face. I spent my whole life, 50 years here, trying to build a church, and you're going to try to tear it down? you're gonna find somebody looking right in your nose, buddy boy. And that's righteous indignation. You start messing with my wife and flirting with my wife. I was visiting my pastor's wife, and she was telling me, I knew about it, but she told me again, she said, some man in their church years ago stood right up in church now and proposed marriage to the preacher's wife. She said, I was so embarrassed. She said, I just sunk down deep in the chair. Well, that fella called the preacher, my pastor, a few years back, and wanted to come by and apologize for what he did. And my pastor said, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would come by. He said, why not? He said, I dreamed that I killed you. I thought that was a pretty good answer. He never showed up. He said he didn't threaten that he would kill him, but he said, I dreamed that I killed you. You know, this getting angry business. I know a pastor that pastored over here, not too far, over here in Pinckney, or Pinckney is down by Howell. He was so calm that he never got riled up at all. He wouldn't get riled up. And his kids would perhaps not obey like they should, but he never went in tore in after them, you know. He just wouldn't get riled up. He had 10 kids, 12 kids, something like that. Finally, he had a nervous breakdown because, and they put him, I think I told the class before, but they put him in a hospital type, well, I guess it was kind of a mental ward, to try to get him straightened out. And they put a bowl of marbles here, and had an empty bowl here, and he was to take those marbles and take them out of here and put them in that there. And then when he got done putting them in this one, they set this one here and put the empties, and now put them back in here. And they had him do that until he got mad. To try to break him and get him in another frame of mind. And that's actually how they went about to do it. Like I said, it's not bad to get angry, but it's getting over it and not allowing it to become sin. I don't know what all Paul had in the connotation of be ye angry and sin not, but there is a place for anybody that's got some steel in him. Have some woman run over him like he was a milquetoast wimp. I wouldn't put up with it 5 minutes. On the other hand, I've seen men trample women down. I wouldn't put up with it if I was her either. So what would you do? I don't know, but the occasion would come, and for the occasion I'd have the answer. But I'm saying it's just a matter of you controlling your mouth. I wouldn't open my mouth till my mind got in gear to know what you're saying. But you can lose your temper. And when you lose your temper, people, in leadership, you lose your testimony. And you begin to act like a fool and an idiot. I can hardly think of anything any more repulsive than for somebody to lose their temper in the church and say some things and aggravate the preacher, the congregation. I had a preacher call me today, a well-known preacher. They asked me to pray for him. He said, I'm having terrible trouble in the church. Some man, while he's preaching, will get up and say something while he's preaching.
I see, now he's probably more even tempered than I, one time like that, and I would say, to a couple of my men, would you put him by the arm and take him out of here? We don't need hecklers. We don't need hecklers in the church. I'd run him right out. He's probably a little more kinder than I am. I remember some guy, we had a preaching meeting, and he was talking about the wickedness of talking in tongues. And some charismatic guy was there, sat down close to the front, and he said, chapter and verse and chapter and verse and chapter. And I said, get him out of here. 2 or 3 guys grabbed him before he could say Jack Robinson, and he was out in the hall. And one guy that took him out, the guy cocked up at him, and he raised his fist back to give the guy maybe a ice cube sandwich or something, I don't know. But anyway, this other, Brother Ralph Cook grabbed his arm to keep him from knocking the lights out of that guy in the back of the house, back of the lobby there. He said, well, I know, this guy had no business getting mad either, but I want to say, it's repulsive, and it hurts the church. It hurts the spirit of a meeting. You can't do that kind of stuff, and you can't allow it either. If you got any grit in your craw, I would think you'd do something about it. Verse 4 said, wrath is cruel. You see, Solomon is kind of in a vein here, talking about several things. Wrath is cruel. Anger is outrageous. But who is able to stand before envy? Envy and jealousy are just about alike. Be like a tornado sweeping down before you when you get somebody mad. I'm thinking about Proverbs 6:34. For jealousy is the rage of a man, therefore he will not spare in his day of vengeance. Nothing will stop a man. I know that all of us are human. We have this terrible part of us that's overly human. And person get jealous or envious. He said wrath would be cruel. And that man will have no mercy. If I come up dead one of these days, my wife said to me this week, we was talking about some other preacher that had stepped out on his wife. She said, if you ever try that, you're dead. She said, I'll shoot you and I'll go on to prison rather than have you hurt their ministry anymore. So if I get shot, you know what I've done? I messed up. I think she means it too. But I'm saying it's jealousy. It's cruel. There is no mercy, and it's outrageous. And he said, who is able to stand before envy? People go crazy. I'm reading about Proverbs 6:35. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though thou givest him many gifts. Many people die because of a jealous or of an envious rage. If they just, I'll go get a gun and I'll kill you. It's, I don't think I could kill anybody. I don't think I could. I don't have it in my mind to do that. The other night I dreamed a dream that somebody was, had come to my car window, if I remember it, and was threatening me. And I said, I have a gun and I'll kill you. And he left. And I said, I woke up, right? I said, now Don, you almost lied. I said, well,
Yeah, I did, but I have a gun, but it's in my closet, it's not in my pocket. And I didn't have a gun, I don't carry a pistol. But I just say that it's in our head. You can see, even though whatever goes on in your dreams is something that you think about. But this guy was mean as a skunk, and he was hurting and threatened, and so I just said, I have a gun and I'll kill him. Poor fella left, that time he did. And it woke me right up out of that terrible dream. But having a bad temper is sin. And you're going to hurt somebody. And you ought to ask God to overcome. Because the Lord wants to help you. Vengeance is mine, and I will repay, saith the Lord. Don't take things into your own hands. Pray for those that despitefully use you. Forgive those that hurt you. I guess none of us would ever come anywhere near the Lord when he was nailed to the cross and his life was still in him. He said, Father, forgive them, these people that are nailing me, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's the height of our Christianity. And be kind to those that mistreat you. I'm reading from Romans 12 and 20. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Love your enemies, drive them nuts. Be careful about excessive anger and jealousy. It's a part of our life that we need to eliminate as Christian leaders. I'm making progress, trying to get on verse 5. Open rebuke is better than secret love. Open rebuke is sort of of demonstrating your love for a person. I would ask you, what good are friends if they would allow you to keep right on doing wickedness and not try to stop you from doing that? They would be worthless friends. And a rebuke, a reprimand, a scolding, maybe a good bawling out, or some telling somebody off would be very kind to them. It would be helpful to them. Not too many people can take that sort of thing. But Solomon said, an open rebuke is better than secret love. He said, tell these folks that they've got this in their life. And it's wrong what they're doing. I don't know. If they swear, say, I wish you wouldn't swear. I'm a Christian, and that really offends me, to have you take God's name in vain and use foul language. I'm a Christian, and I have to work here alongside of you, and I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I would rather that you wouldn't do that. Now, there would be nothing wrong with that. Could you see anything wrong with that? No. And it's an open rebuke. Now, you may get mad at you and not speak to you for a few days, but most people have got enough sense they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't be, If you know somebody's telling a lie, say, you didn't tell the truth. Cheated, or stole something. You know it. You're their friend. Rebuke them. It's not easy to do. I just believe that a good person will help a person who is not so good to become a better person. If you can handle all of this without breaking their spirit, without causing a lot of anger towards you, but in a kindly manner to rebuke those who are not right around you. It's better to rebuke them than to love them and to dote over them. This bothers me more than a lot, to see parents dote over their children. When they do something wrong, get right on that case right now, so that it doesn't become something bigger. And I know you don't want to do that, but they'll never stop their wrongdoing unless somebody corrects them. And help others around about you without being pharisaical, without making them mad. Don't let your friends do wrong. That's what Solomon is saying. If they don't straighten up, then don't travel with them anymore. So I just can't fellowship with you because you're not doing right. I love you and I don't want to break our fellowship, but I can't go along with this and this and this and this. Can you understand that kind of stuff? That is Christian. That's Christian leadership. And that's what this class is about, and character building along with that. Verse 6, faithfulness are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. This little proverb is about deceit. Wounds from a friend maybe are cutting and sharp, like I just said about rebuking that person for their wrongdoing, but it'll do more good than the kisses of an enemy. Like Judas Iscariot kissed Jesus. I've said this before, but it makes good preaching for any that want to use it, that Jesus was the door to heaven. I am the door, and Judas Iscariot kissed the door to heaven and went to hell. That's how close he came to that. But I want to say, in line with this, there was an Old Testament story. There was a fellow by the name of Abner who was sort of the captain of the host of Israel. And the king of Israel was Ishbosheth, Saul's son. And Joab was the captain of the host of Judah, and David was the king. And there was a lot of animosity between Joab and Abner, because Abner had killed Joab's brother. But he had it coming, did he not? I mean, he was going to kill him, so he killed him. And there was that Old Testament business of life for life. And there were cities of refuge where you could go and be protected if you didn't do it intentionally. Murder, that is. And Abner was not very far. He was just in the gate close to the very city of refuge himself. But there was Joab saw an opportunity to kill this fellow. There's a lot of story to this. So he came up to him and he grabbed him by the beard and kissed him. And while he was up here so close, he pulled his sword out and stuck it right in his fifth rib. Killed him. I don't know how he counted those ribs, but it said he put it in the fifth rib. But that's sneaky stuff. Abner was a sneaky person.
I don't know why David put up with him as long as he did. He tried to fire him several times, couldn't get rid of him, seemingly. But anyway, to make a long story short, people don't always reveal their heart to you. And they may show kindness to you. They may even kiss you. But really inside of all of that is deceit. And even murder behind it all. Open rebuke is better than secret love, Dave Solomon said. I wish I could illustrate better, but Solomon said it well. He said, the wounds of a friend are better than those of a deceitful person. I'd rather have wounds. They do cut. I mean, my friend would cut me down. I was telling my pastor's wife about how my pastor cut me down. I mean, he really rebuked me. I was the pastor of this church. We're talking about 1956 or 7. And I got too big for my britches. And he told me so. And he really ripped me up one side and down the other, and it made me mad. But I know he told me the truth. And I was on my way back from the Flint church where he was at. And I got so convicted. And I said, my pastor is right and I'm wrong. And I went about that whole night making visits, trying to straighten up my own wrongdoings and asking people to pray for me and to forgive me. It spared my life. It spared this church. We would not be sitting in this place tonight with this class if it wasn't for that particular night and my decision to do and follow and take the rebuke of my pastor. It was so sharp, it was so hurtful. It took me right down out of a cloud 9 and punctured my balloon, and I fell hard, but it was the best thing, one of the best things that ever happened to me was that rebuke of that man. Not everything is just like it appears to be. Sometimes it looks like a person that's lovey-dovey and kissy-kissy and mushy-mushy and slushy-slushy, that they really love you. But watch out for that foolishness. Their love really could be hatred. And on the other hand, there are people that you feel like that hate you, but they really love you. Things aren't always just like you think they are. Some things that look real bad are good. And some things that look real good are bad. And if your pastor rebukes you, or your teacher at school rebukes you, or maybe some good friend there, or your parents would rebuke you, it doesn't mean that they don't love you. They really do love you. Sometimes people who seem to love you don't. But there are other people who are really trying to help you. And if you listen, you could become a greater person. Just remember my little thought there, that everything isn't just like it appears to be. Verse 7 says, the full soul loatheth a honeycomb, but the hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. Only the people who are really hungry are satisfied with what they have to eat. When you have everything
you want, it's really hard to appreciate what you've got. And a lot of times the luxury of wealth brings less happiness than a hard-working man that builds up an appetite and comes home and eats his supper. This man is a lot happier than a man that's been mincing all day long on Whitmere candies and perhaps cinnamon rolls for breakfast, and perhaps this and that and the other thing of delicacies, maybe butter, maybe hummingbird wings for something, I don't know, exotic food. The people that are really happy are people that work and get hungry and have something to eat. I see it a lot, see people up putting roofs on houses here in February, and they're putting shingles on a roof. And I say, Faye, you know what? You know why they're up there doing that? They want to eat. If they don't eat, they don't work, they don't eat. And it's an incentive. And when you eat and you earn some money and go buy some groceries, and you sit down and eat those groceries you bought, it's quite a satisfaction. I earned these groceries, these are mine, I bought them, and they're happy. Bring happiness and joy to your life. And he said, the full soul loatheth a honeycomb. If you got all you want and never have really been without, it's difficult to enjoy. But when you're really full, there's nothing really tastes good. But when you're hungry, every bitter thing is good. Have you ever got hungry enough that you would eat anything? My mother and dad were good people. I keep bringing reference to them, but they put stuff on my plate, and I didn't like it. They said, well, if you get hungry enough, you'll eat it. And that was all they're going to give me, and you better eat it or else. You won't have anything else. And I think about a lot of things. I'm an old man, but my brain works pretty good yet, and I think about a lot of incidents and things, but you learn to eat things that you don't like. I never really been crazy about rutabaga. I always thought it tastes like rotten stumps. I never ate any rotten stumps, but if it did, I would taste just about like rutabaga. And I'm not very crazy about carrots. I eat them once in a while because they tell me I'll have long ears if I eat them like a rabbit. But a lot of spinach, and I'm not crazy about broccoli. I'm not too crazy about cabbage. I like coleslaw, but not the boiled. I eat it. I eat sauerkraut once in a while. But I say I had a good parents, good dad, mother. Put a lot of things in my plate and said, eat it. I can remember one time my dad gave me a nickel. This is way back now. I'm talking 19, maybe 34, 35, 36, maybe 34. My dad gave me a nickel, and a nickel was quite a lot of money back in those days. If I'd eat an onion, boy, I mean, it was a time and a half trying to get that hot onion down, but I ate that onion. My dad gave me a nickel for eating it. I don't know what his philosophy was, but maybe he was just trying to get me to eat something. I like them now. But coming back into our class and coming back into the Christian life and being in a place of leadership, it's pretty well that you learn to eat what's put before you. And people, and you're in a home, and they say, would you sit down and eat with us? And you eat with them, and they have pickled pig's feet. You say, oh Lord, bless this. I've known of missionaries in China that ate eggs that were 100 years old. Rotten eggs. So I wouldn't eat it. Well, if you didn't eat it, you might offend those people. So it was a delicacy to them to, I don't know if it was 100, it seemed like it was years old anyway. People get hungry enough, they eat rats and mice and cockroaches. I remember when I was a boy, the war was going on. There was a famous pilot by the name of, oh boy, I just had it in my, when I started this little story, I had it in my head who he was, Eddie Rickenbacker. You probably never heard of Eddie Rickenbacker. But he got shot down, and he was in somehow parachuted and landed in the water and had a raft and lived in that raft on the ocean. I don't know how many days. I mean, it was weeks. And he ate seagulls. Somehow, albatross, you'd somehow catch them and maybe catch fish with hooks and something he made. How he lived and he survived was really a story during the war, Eddie Rickenbacker. But you can learn to do a lot of things. I would gag if I had to eat a snake. Or maybe a dog or a cat, especially a cat. I hate cats. But whatever this business is of Solomon's writings, it's a part of our Christian program of leadership. It's to do right. I'm so finicky about what I eat. I don't eat pork. I haven't eaten any pork in 25 years that I know of. I might have eaten a hot dog it was in, I don't know. But I try not to eat pork. I try not to eat fish that doesn't have scales, like the Bible, has. I don't eat bullheads and catfish. I don't eat them. You said, boy, they're good. I wouldn't doubt a bit that they're good, but I don't eat them because I'm so super spiritual that I don't eat them. I just don't eat frog legs, and I don't eat stuff that's unclean. And I'm not trying to tell you that I'm better than you are, but I will eat it though. If I was forced to eat it, and that's all I had to eat, I would probably say double grace over it and eat it. But it's not my cup of tea. I've toyed with the idea of being in a place somewhere where there was no water to drink. And all they had was Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. I think I would die before I'd drink the beer. But you can't say that. I had a dear friend that died, Brother Crowell. Brother Crowell pastored the church over here in Greenville. And he said he would never take pain medicine when he was dying because he wanted to have his mind, when he died, he wanted to have his mind. I went to see him a couple days before he died. He said, Brother Green, I've had to eat my words. The pain has been so severe that I have taken some pain medicine. So don't go too cocked off and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to eat that. If you get hungry enough, you'll eat just about anything. People do and have and all over the world. I wouldn't care to eat lizards, but I guess I don't even like gizzards, let alone lizards.